Oh, hold on a
So
sec.
I'm going to have to stand, right?
Yes. All right,
Like
you
this.
guys. Welcome, welcome, welcome.
Okay, move out of the way. Wow.
Welcome, 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 everybody. Okay. All right. Welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast. It is an honor to be here with you as always. Today is another one of my favorite topics just because all topics are my favorite. And, I just want to make sure you all say hi to our special guest today, Ross Jeffries. He will be joining me again on the Abundant Accountant Podcast. But real quick, I wanted to let you know that today's, podcast episode is brought to you by Logitech. Logitech is this camera right here. This camera is the best camera I have ever used on earth, just to let you all know. So I've used this camera for over a year. I've reached out to them and they actually are sponsoring my podcast, Success Unfiltered. You've probably seen me post about it, but this thing is literally legit. I used them before I started promoting them. And I would never promote something that was not great. This is fabulous. It literally clips on top of your laptop like that. So I am going to be doing a giveaway. If you want to enter the giveaway, you need to go on Instagram and you need to tag a person in my Logitech post that was there like yesterday. And that's how you're going to enter the giveaway. Okay? So just tag a person that you think might want to learn all about sales and all that great stuff. Tag them in the post below, again, on my Instagram, which is the Pitch Queen. And you should pick one of these up. Logitech.com/Brio. BRIO. Ross, this is a great camera, right?
I love this camera, Brio.
Okay. So again, for the next a few months, I will be talking a lot about this. This thing will change the game of anything you do in your business, especially if you're on video. So if you are on my Pitch Queen Facebook page, you will notice that the quality of the image is very crisp. I even have the most expensive Mac laptop, and the camera on that sucks compared to this thing. So pick one up. Amy will put that in the link down below. Hey, Lorena. But again, Logitech camera. So back to the program. Ian, you can start the audio here, okay? So welcome to the Abundant Accountant Podcast, where if you're looking to grow your firm, this is definitely the place to hang out. Countless clients have come to me struggling to really figure out how to properly sift through the clients who are ready to work with you right now, right? How many times do you have clients that come and talk to you, but they never engage with you right now? So a lot of what we're going to be talking about today is how to learn how to tell who's really serious to work with you now and who to put kind of in a follow-up sequence, who might not really be a good client for you right now. And this was actually one of the biggest problems that I had when I first started out in my sales career too. I was in mortgages, I was in real estate, and how many times did people say, oh yeah, I want to buy a house, but they really weren't ready to buy the house. They didn't have the down payment. They didn't have any of their financing figured out for their mortgage. There's 8 million different reasons why. And I couldn't identify properly who was ready to work with me now. So that's what my main mission is to help you all today, is how to identify who's ready to work with you now. And then we'll also have Ross's input on that today too. So in this episode, I will share my personal experiences. Ross will share his personal experiences on the ways to identify clients who are ready to move forward right now and who will be able, hopefully you'll be able to apply a few of the things that we talk about today. So that is what we're discussing today. And also, why is it important to qualify leads? Number one, you don't want to waste your time, right? How many of you think that there's just not enough time on earth these days and that each day just flies by so quick, right? So number one, you can't waste your time. Your time is so valuable and precious.
And can I just say something? Time is the one thing you don't get any more of. You can always make more money, but you can never get more time.
Okay. So yes, that is a very legit point. We can't get time back, and so your time becomes your money. So how do we stop trading in time for dollars? A lot of accounting professionals that I work with, you're still charging hourly. You're still billing by the hour. So a lot of that can get solved. But again, understanding which clients you want to work with right now and who is ready to work with you right now, because not everyone is ready to work with you right now. So you might get clients who are also not the best fit. Who is a good fit? Who is a bad fit? If you get people, and Ross, you can give your input on that are not a good fit, the quality of your work will actually decline, right?
Yeah, and if I could add a little bit of something there, when you get people who are not a good fit, you wind up feeling that you are the one who's working for them. I will never, ever, ever work with anyone who thinks that just because they're paying me, they can cop a bad attitude, or that me working with them and they're paying me means that I'm their personal slave, or someone who doesn't feel that they're going to have to put in some work. If they expect me to bear all the work and they're not willing to put in the work, I don't want to deal with them, because they'll badmouth you, and it just drains your idea that you're the one who's giving value, because you're here to deliver service and make a difference. How do you do that if the person isn't willing to put in the work?
So, Ross, from your experience, what are the best ways that you have learned, your top 3, on how to qualify the leads that won't waste your time, who would not be a good fit for you, so you don't have the decline in work, not ethic, but I was talking to somebody yesterday, actually, and if your main client, right, is yelling at you, screaming at you, or for the accountants, they're not getting your paperwork on time, they expect you to be a 24/7 concierge service, you're basically at their back end call, and they're really only paying you X number of dollars a month. Do you feel that the quality of your work declines because you're treated that way? So literally think about, how do you want to be respected? Who do you want to work with? And those are all important elements. So Ross, what are the top 3 things that you look at when it comes to qualifying the leads that are, ready to work with you right now?
Well, let me work through these as I speak to you. Number 1, I want to make sure that they're clear on what it is their problem is. So I will ask questions to evoke answers about what their biggest pain points and challenges are. If they can't give me clear answers to that, I know that they're just so far out in space that I'm not going to be able to help them. That's number 1. Number 2, if they are not willing to invest in themselves, if they just don't get the point of investing in themselves and they think they already know everything, then what's the point? And number 3, and this is a big one, Michelle, a big one. I want everyone out there to recognize, this is no joke, your value and your worth. If they try to bargain with me on price, I never bargain on price. If they're going to bargain with me on price, it means ultimately they don't get the value proposition and they're not going to come through. Never, ever, ever work with someone who tries to bargain on price. Do not do it.
Yep. Okay, so those are really great examples. I want to give you another one. So especially for the CPAs, you have a lot of deadlines, right? There's a big tax deadline every year, April 15th. There's a big tax deadline of October 15th. Some sample questions that you can integrate into your client meetings with a new client could be something like this. I only work with 5 monthly accounting service type clients every single month. And that is my capacity right now. And what I found are the people that get the best results are really willing to be committed. They're willing to be coachable, and they're willing to be action takers and get me their documentation and keep their QuickBooks in order all the time. Is that you? So what this does is it frames a question or a statement to your client where it sets it up that they understand what your expectations are. Okay? So think about that. Or another statement question that could work for you. I'm committed to working with people who want to grow their business successfully. That's if you're working with a new business maybe, or a business that's been around for a year or two. Is that you? Like, what if someone's really not looking to work with a business who, their goal is wants to grow? What if they just want to keep cruising along and they don't want to grow? But in your ideal client profile, you definitely want to work with clients who want to grow.
Can I jump in here and tell you something? That last question, I'm committed to working with people who want to grow their business successfully. Is that you? If you get anything other than an absolutely or an absolutely yes or a yes, if they go, well, that's it. That's a no. They may not say no directly, but or if they give you long stories and then blah, blah, blah. The only right answer is a short answer, which is absolutely yes or absolutely yes. Otherwise, they're not really committed. They're BSing you.
Right. And if they're BSing you or they're not fully committed, this is an opportunity for you to choose. Do you want to continue down this path with this client, or are they going to turn into what we were talking about earlier, right? Which is wasting your precious time, which you can't get back. Ross mentioned that. Or that client might be a bad fit. So this is your opportunity to realize that they're a bad fit, and you can choose right to continue with them, or you can choose left and move the other way and walk the other way. Because if you take on this client who isn't really 100% committed to working with you right now, or at the level that you're wanting to play, then your work could and might decline. So keep that in mind.
And I'll say this, the more you commit to saying no to an unqualified client, the more you will increase your sense of worth and deservingness when you get the qualified clients. The one follows the other. You must say no to someone who's not qualified for you to be truly in the space of believing in your worth and believing that you deserve to get big money.
So, with that said, that's a perfect segue into getting yourself ready first. So I truly, truly believe for your accounting firm to have the client of abundance of the people that you truly want to work with, and to have the financial freedom of abundance that you're all each looking to achieve, you have to be yourself first. The more that you are that yourself from day one, the more likely your ideal clients will take notice and you'll start attracting them, right? Like attracts like. In addition to that, setting up some boundaries. So some of the boundaries that we've been talking about are really setting up statements and questions to ask your clients in order to qualify if they are ready to work with you now. Again, you don't have a lot of time to be sifting through clients because we understand that our time is very precious. So who will you want to work with? Who will you not want to work with? Do you have any minimum revenue requirements, income requirements for the clients that you want to take on? Are there people in certain industries that you want to take on? So a couple of other qualifying statements that you can talk about. And for each of you that might be interested in learning from me, these are some questions that I ask each of you, because I know that in order to really learn how to work with your clients, sell your services, get paid what you're worth, know exactly what to charge, and not wing any sales conversations, you have to invest a little bit of time in the front end in order to reap the rewards. So I'll give you an example. I have a student, his name is Scott, and Scott, I talked to probably about 3 or 4 months ago about doing our 8-week class. And at the time, Scott didn't have the time. So I was asking him questions like, I only work with people who are willing to take out about 5 to 7 hours per week, every single week for an 8-week period, who will do the homework, number one, and number two, actually implement a sales process in their accounting firm that they've never had before in order to close business a little bit quicker. He wanted to generate about $100,000 in revenue of dead business that was sitting on the table, which, by the way, he closed, I think, $25,000 worth of business last week, just in 1 week.
Wow.
Okay? But he had to sacrifice the time right now to invest to learn what I was teaching him. And none of us have any time, but you have to sort of carve out time for what's important to you, right? So I was telling Scott this like 3 or 4 months ago, or 6, I don't even know how many months ago it was, and he wasn't ready. And we got to this point in our conversation, right? It's like, I only work with people who want to make strategic decisions, who are willing to create a sales process so they don't have clients that are wasting their time and that you can really truly help and serve right now. But in order to do that, you have to set aside about 5 to 7 hours a week to do your homework and show up to class every single week for 8 weeks. Is that you? Are you committed to doing that right now? And at the time, he wasn't. However, he was about 6 or 7 weeks ago. And from doing that, he was able to create the results not only for his firm, but also working with his clients. Because every time that we're not able to work with our clients at the capacity that we really want to, we're not able to share our gifts with our clients. They're actually in a worse position if we don't change, right? So Scott's 5 clients in his situation probably were paying upwards of $200,000 in taxes combined, all of them. But if he were to help them, he would be able to reduce their tax liability by about $150,000. So that saves 5 clients $150,000. But Scott has to invest time in himself in order to have these powerful conversations with his clients. So it can be a win for his client, it can be a win for him, and it can be a win for his firm. Right? But sometimes our clients just aren't ready to work with us now. So, Ross.
Yes, I want to add to that. I learned something from one of my marketing mentors, Dan Kennedy. Dan Kennedy taught me something that has made me millions of dollars, most of which I lost. But Dan taught me something. Dan said, life is a moving parade. And if a person isn't ready at one point in time, something as the parade moves around and comes back around again, they may be ready later on. So Michelle is bringing up a good point about her client, Scott. He wasn't ready at that time, but then he became ready, which leads me to say one thing, and I know it's not necessarily the subject here, but I want to add to it because it's a big money maker. The money is made in the follow-up. The money is made in the follow-up. One more time, say it with me out there. The money is made in the follow-up.
Yep. We will do a segment on follow-up. We'll do an episode on that at a later date, but it is an important topic, and we will be covering that in more depth. But I like to call it being professionally annoying, and when you're really
you're a genius.
When you're really professionally annoying, you can make a lot of money. So for each person listening, the follow-up is super important. And what I've done and researched and have read is that less than, let's just use 50%. 50% of business owners and entrepreneurs, and even in the accounting world, I think in the accounting world, the number is even greater, do not follow up with their clients. So from most of the accountants that I have worked with personally, one-on-one or in my group setting, do not follow up. If you just do that one thing, I bet your return on your time investment will be like 2,000%.
Hang on, what you're not revealing is you're systematically, professionally annoying. You are the master of systems.
Yes, I am systematically, professionally annoying. That is correct. I've been told that one too many times. But I take it as a compliment, so I'll give myself a pat on the back. Ross, a question for you. When you're meeting with a potential client, right? You're an accountant. You have to put your accountant hat on. You're a CPA. You're an enrolled agent. You're sitting in front of a client. What do you listen for? What are some words or things that clients have said to you where you listen, you're like, yep, I want to work with them. Yes, they're going to be a good client. Yes, they want to work with me now. Like, what are a few unique things that you've listened for in a client meeting?
Okay. Well, let me give you a slightly different answer because what I look for is congruency. And let me unpack that for you. So I look to see if the verbal language is congruent with the tone of voice, if it's congruent with gestures and body language. So, for example, if the client says, yes, I'm willing to work with you and I'm ready, but I get like this, a slight little, I call it an unconscious micro movement. If I look and they're saying yes, but they're doing this, I know they're incongruent. So that's the first thing I look for.
So incongruency.
Yes, I look to see if they're incongruent, first and foremost. The second thing I'm going to look for is to see if they make a lot of, and this is really drilling down to the details. I don't want to get too technical
We
because
want to keep it simple.
Keep it simple. So I'll keep it simple. I look to see if they use a distancing language, which means if they talk about, well, the goals or, the income goals instead of my revenue goals, my income goals. So are they distancing it by not taking ownership of it? I look for that. If they're taking ownership of it and using what I call ownership language like my, mine, I know they're going to make a great potential client. So I listen for ownership language. And then I look for, do they move away from pain or do they move towards pleasure, towards reward? If they're moving away from pain, they can be just as easy to work with, but you have to know how to adjust. I prefer, just myself individually, to work with people who move towards pleasure rather than people who move away from pain. And the reason for that is you're going to have to constantly reassure the people who are moving away from pain. They tend to be more difficult. Now, at first, when you're dealing with people, you have to hone in on their pain points. But if they're generally speaking, their whole orientation continues to be avoiding pain. I'm not talking about the qualifying process. But if while you're working with them, when you're doing that initial interview, they keep using language about what they don't want, they're going to, generally speaking, be a little bit more difficult to work with. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. Can you just sum it up again, those three things? 1, 2, 3.
I look for congruency between their language and their nonverbals. I look to see if they use distancing language like the goals, the desires, the revenue, and ownership language like my revenue, etc. Okay. And then finally, I look for whether they move towards pleasure or away from pain. It's not that one is better than the other, but generally speaking, people who move away from pain as the filter through which they see their world, you're going to have to do a little bit more hand-holding. So it depends if you're willing to do a little bit more hand-holding, then that's okay. But I personally prefer people who move towards pleasure. Everybody does both, given a certain context. But I prefer to work with people who move towards what they want.
Yeah. Okay. So was that all of them? I think so. We'll just say that was 1, 2, and 3. Okay.
That was 3.
Yeah, it was sort of 3. I just took horrible notes. Okay. So thank you, Ross, for sharing that. Always so much genius coming out of him, right? And it's always like super, super technical. But
that wasn't technical. That was easy.
Okay. He thinks it's easy, but I know we have a bunch of really intelligent accountants and CPAs and EAs, so you guys can, I'm sure, relate to the technicalities, and hopefully you find that really helpful on your next client meetings that you have. So keep that in mind. I gave you some of my best qualifying questions. I want to give you one more, and then I want Ross to give us 2 or 3 of his favorite qualifying questions, because believe it or not, qualifying questions will help you dictate who you want to work with and who you don't want to work with. So here's another one. I work with people. So if I'm the accountant or the CPA, this is what you would say to your clients, okay? I work with people who are decisive, committed, and sick of paying too much in tax and really want to get organized with their financial situation in their business. Okay, that's another one. Another idea. I work with people who want to make strategic decisions, are committed to changing what they have been doing year after year, and are ready to act now to make a change. Is that you? Can I count on you for that? Ross, what are 3 of your qualifying questions that you could that an accountant or CPA could ask their clients to make sure they don't waste time, they're working with people that are moving towards, and what would you recommend?
I have to say, this is a case where you've covered the ground so thoroughly. I honestly don't think that I have anything better or further to contribute. You've nailed it. I would ask them virtually the same questions and make the same statements. You've got it brilliantly down, Michelle. I can't add to your genius on this one.
Okay. Wow. That's pretty impressive when Ross doesn't have much to add on a topic. He's just
nailed it.
So, okay, cool. Well, for each of you listening, write those down, implement it in every single client meeting conversation that you have. And let's discuss when it's time to walk away in the last few minutes that we're here together. Because knowing when to not qualify somebody and when you should walk left, or if we choose to, we go to the right, or we're going to walk away, we're going to walk to the left, right? So maybe your clients are inconsistent with what they're saying to you. You're having a new meeting with a brand new client and they're talking about their revenue and they're saying their business does $500,000 in revenue, and you get to their P&Ls and you're looking at their tax returns and they actually only had $300,000 in revenue. They're clearly inconsistent in the data that they've given you. They've estimated higher, and $200,000 in revenue off is kind of a lot, right? They give you short answers. Maybe they seem like they aren't very interested, or maybe it seems like they're shopping around, or they're wasting time by saying, you know what, I think I want to change accounting firms, but I'm not really sure. They really don't seem like they are a decision maker, and they don't have any real power. That might be a good time to say, hey, you know what? Unfortunately, I don't think we're going to be a good fit to work together, but I have a referral down the street. His name is Tom, and Tom works with clients that are more of your caliber. And unfortunately, I just don't think we're going to be a good match, or we don't have a really good vibe. And it's best to just walk away. And I know Ross has more to add to this topic, but Ross, what are the 3 ways you would recommend on how and when to not qualify a lead and actually turn them away?
Okay. First thing is, I'm going to say this again. If they try to bargain on price, they're gone.
Okay. So
gone.
Bargain on price.
Bargaining on price, they're gone. Second thing is if they meander off into a story and you have to constantly bring their attention back onto your value proposition. A lot of people who are full of bull will go into long stories, and they'll talk about why they can't do something and give excuses and reasons, and I don't want to deal with it. I just don't want to deal with it. And finally, and this is an easy one, and why people don't get it, I don't know. If they're disrespectful in their tone, if they're condescending, even if they're giving me the right factual answers, Michelle, and this sort of loops back to what I said before about looking at congruency between words and tone and body language. Yeah. If they are in any way condescending, or they have a nasty attitude, or their attitude indicates that they're constantly looking for status. This is a really important thing. For those of you who are out there and your main goal is to be of service, it's not even in your mindset that so many people operate out of a sense of hierarchy, that they just have to be of higher status than you, even when you're serving them. They mistake service for servitude. I'll say it again. They mistake service for servitude. And if you pick that up in their tone of voice, get off the phone. Get out of that Skype consult or however you're doing it. And recommend them to someone you don't like.
Well, thank you, Ross. So just to sum that up, if you missed it, number 1, if they're bargaining on price, send them on their merry way. If they're meandering on a story, or they're just telling too long of stories, they're probably a client that will take up a lot of your time. Might be best to turn them the other way. If they're condescending in any way, my number 1 thing is for sure respect. So if you feel disrespected in any way, shape, or form, it's time to move the other way. Number 4, looking for status, turn the other way. And number 5, a mistake between service for servitude. Did I get that right?
Absolutely. Never, ever confuse service, being of service, with servitude. Ever.
Awesome. All right, you guys. So, thank you each for listening today. I hope you found this really valuable. If you put this into practice in your practice, it will be very rewarding financially and very rewarding on the full abundance and how you feel in life. What I recommend is that you make a little checklist and you qualify every single lead, even if you feel desperate for a new client, right? You have your rent, you have your staff, and you're that accountant that's taking on every single client that's coming your way, but then you're not happy. You're working 10, 12-hour days where you really want to work 4 to 6 or maybe 8-hour days. You're not enjoying the clients that you're working with anymore. It's actually, you've turned your firm into a job for yourself. If that's the case, then put into practice what we're talking about today. And I just want to thank each of you again for joining me here on the Abundant Accountant Podcast, and more to come on the 1st and the 15th of every single month. Thanks again. Have a great night.
Bye, all.
Say bye.
Goodbye, all. Michelle's a genius.
Okay, I will do the exit leader. Okay, does anyone have any questions over here on my personal Facebook, Instagram? Any questions if you're not an accountant? Once again, if you want to go get one of these.
I want one.
Yeah, it's the best camera. It's about $200 or $199 actually. Again, it's the Logitech Brio, so logitech.com/Brio. They are a sponsor of Success Unfiltered, all my Facebook Live shows. I love them. They have the best like headsets and gadgets and anything. So again, Logitech, if you can read it, there you go. Logitech. And it was an honor to have each of you here. If you can share this on your pages, that would be amazing. And we will be doing this probably again next week. Bye. Okay.
Wow. Always great value. What synergy?
I know, right?
Like, right. I'm
Okay.
going to use that as a meme, a trope for myself, being professionally annoying.
Oh, yeah.
I love that. Have you actually been called annoying?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, that's where I came up with that.
That's brilliant. What a reframe. Professionally annoying.
Okay.
By the way, if you can, how long is the program that you take people through?
8 weeks.
8 weeks? Does it
Oh, did I not? Oh, I did not stop it? Oh, you guys, it's still going. My bad.